Ah, my computer went bad on me, but at least it gave me a chance to have a little bit more of my coffee. All right. Last thought I was talking about was the fact that you've got all these people with all their crazy opinions. Well, they're not all crazy opinions, but they know that the more extreme they are, the more chance people are going to talk about them. People are going to watch them for good or ill, and that's how you can make a career. What the biggest issue with that is that unfortunately a lot of people watching uh, these folks don't realize that they aren't journalists. They're not going out and reporting the news and trying to then provide the truth. These are commentators. They're giving their opinion, and if you don't know the difference, then it's very easy to look at an organization like MSNBC or Fox News and say that these are radical news organizations um, because so much of what they do is opinion. And so this is one of the reasons why people distrust the media. If you go to chapter 2, page 31 in your textbook, you'll see how that a lot of the reasons why people distrust the media. Well, we're not only changing how we get our news, we're changing how the news is being reported to us. Numbers 4 and 5 on your supplemental look at the Chicago Sun-Times back in 2013 when the Chicago Sun-Times fired its entire photography staff, every single one of them, including a photographer who had won the Pulitzer Prize for his work. Why? Couldn't afford them. And so read through that. Then number 5 says what the Sun Times did, which was to have their journalists train on how to take pictures on their iPhone. So now, if you're a journalist and you're going to cover a fire, you're a reporter. Not only do you have to interview the survivors or the neighbors and the police and the firefighters and whoever else, oh, now we want you to take pictures too while you're doing that. And these days, not only do you need to do that, oh, we also want you to tweet about this event all the time. Oh, can take some video too, and update your personal Facebook page, and update the news Facebook page on what's going on. Oh, could you respond to some comments maybe in your story so you can engage with the? I mean, it's so much more of what journalists have to do. When I was at the Inquirer in the '90s, Paul Doherty was a sports columnist. He still is, and he's amazing. He had to write 2 columns a week, one on Monday, one on Thursday. That's pretty much it. That was his job, his weekly job. Now he has a blog every day. He has to write way more columns than he used to. He has to do Twitter. He has to do all these things. He hates it. He hates it. Oh my gosh. He's counting the days until retirement. It's just a whole another world. But again, that's why young people can step in and do it. You have the energy to do it. That's one of the main reasons. Okay. Um, the next item after number 5 is how people get their news. This is that Gallup website, which I highly recommend you keep. Well, you want to be educated pretty well about what is going on in journalism. This is a wonderful site to look at what we trust and where we get our news based on our political ideology and also based on our age. Most people, again, this is nothing new. You don't know, but most people are getting their news through social media. Most people overall are getting their news online. If you scroll down on that article, down to the charts near the bottom, one is titled Americans' News Consumption, and then the next one is titled Americans' News Consumption 1998 to 2019. If you haven't spent some time looking at these charts, please do that. And not just so you might do well on a quiz, but just so you are well versed on what's happening. Um, if you look at that first one, America's News Consumption, you can see the most and least popular ways people are getting their news. If you notice, the number one cable source for news is these days. Do you see which one, which cable source that is? The final chart looks at differences in news consumption by age group. No surprise, news on the internet, how high that is for people in your age group. Notice how that drops as people get older. Look at the local TV and how that rises precipitously as people get older. My parents still watch TV. That's their main source for news. They do not go online to get their news. Fred Sr. is 80 years old. LaDonna is 78 years old, just turned. So that's just the way they are. And a lot of people that age, as you can see, get their news differently than you do. Why is that? Well, remember, one reason is that phrase I'm going to say a billion times. It's not just what you say that matters, but how you say it. You love Twitter and other social media a lot more than old people. Why? It's just easier for you. It's quicker. And my parents couldn't spell Twitter. They have no idea what Twitter really even does. They are all about TV news. Media companies are in the business of providing you with news, but they're really in the business of making money. They're a business, after all. It's the news business. And so media companies, therefore, try to match stories to your interest, which can be good, right? It is one of the great things about today's media is that the news literally can be tailored to you. You can pick favorites and go to those favorites all the time. Heck, even your interests are tailored to you. I'm sure that you have, searched maybe on Amazon for a product that you were thinking about buying, and then you went to, let's say, Facebook, and suddenly, as you're going through your Facebook feed, that item shows up. It's really kind of creepy that they're able to do that. Um, but that's out there now. This ability to tailor your what you're looking at to you. But since media companies are businesses, they realize that these are ways they can make money. But the best way to make money, at least with content for news organizations, is to sell what sells the most. And that, my friends, is conflict. I've already mentioned these two people in class and on this video. Rachel Maddow is on MSNBC. If you look at that chart of the ideological placement of news organizations, you can see where MSNBC rates. Sean Hannity is the number one personality in Fox News. Used to be Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly was by far for Fox News the number one personality, multimillionaire. He got in a little trouble for some sexual harassment claims, so he's out. Sean Hannity now is the guy. Hannity is so aligned with the right. He just last year or the year before showed up at a Donald Trump rally and walked up on the stage, hugged Donald Trump, and then said a few words at the rally. So if there's any misconstruing that he's a journalist versus a commentator, that is a clear indication. No journalist ever, no matter how they feel about a candidate politically or a politician, would ever do something like that. But Sean Hannity is able to do it because he's really not a journalist. Anyway, just click on those links just in case you don't. Oh, Scout. Hi. That's Scout. Scout Finch is going crazy. Sorry about that. But Rachel, so in case you don't know them or know what they look like, then there they are. It's also interesting to me to see how they design their pages. Like Sean Hannity has the really big red, white, and blue thing happening there. So there's that. The political left and political right just like to play off each other and fight on their respective sites. And there are, of course, some stereotypes when it comes to the right and left, which I assume you know. And I'm not saying these are true, but typically the right. Oh boy, the dog is just barking. Typically the right is known for being, gun worshippers, Second Amendment people. That the right is less caring about minorities, gay people, pretty much anybody who's not a white Christian. They have fear that the country is going away from Christianity. So that's the people on the right. People on the left are considered bleeding hearts, that they don't, oh my gosh, this dog, that they don't love America, that they they want to take your guns away. So that's kind of, it's a very generic stereotypes about the right and left. Well, look at the two screenshots that I have there. Breitbart. If you look at Breitbart's, this is a far right website, and so pretty much every story is going to cater to this idea, to this philosophy of what the right believes in. So you have their main headline: National Democrats dodge questions on whether NRA is a domestic terrorist organization. The National Rifle Association, big into gun rights, gun ownership, And so here is the left, because San Francisco, which is a highly liberal city, has declared the NRA a domestic terrorist organization. So here's Breitbart essentially saying, here we go. They're going to take away your guns. Look at what the liberal city, San Francisco, is saying about the NRA. Or if you look at the um, second orange headline, 6 illegal aliens accused of stabbing 21-year-old man to death. And that same story is even over on the right with pictures, mugshots of those people. That's going to that theme of the brown people are taking over the country. Here they are. They shouldn't even be here. They've killed somebody. We need to build that wall to keep this out, or this is going to start happening. They're going to overtake our country, and we're doomed. That's the theory. I promise you, you won't see that headline on NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN. Certainly not in the prominence that Breitbart displays that headline. The one underneath the mugshots, Marianne Williamson, who's running for a Democrat for president. I didn't think the left lied like this. So even Marianne, someone running for president on the Democratic side, is admitting that the Democrats are a bunch of liars. So look how that. So if you only go to Breitbart, these are the things that you think are important, or these are the things Breitbart thinks you think should be important. Now look at the MSNBC screenshot, and you have the big picture is them mocking Donald Trump. He drew a Sharpie, or somebody, probably him, drew a Sharpie of the Hurricane Dorian heading toward Alabama. And if you don't know what's going on with that story, just know that the president's trying to convince people that reports were true, that the hurricane originally might be going to Alabama. So now people are making fun of this chart that he showed with somebody writing a Sharpie picture on a map. And so now if you were to click on that video, everybody's making fun of him now, and they're drawing. That's his inauguration crowd that he said was bigger than Barack Obama's, and so people are drawing Sharpie people in there to make his crowd bigger. That's actually very funny. Or look on the right. Here's another story about the mystery marker, Trump, and the map. There's a picture of him showing the map. A third article about it, about the false claim. Let's see. Go down. Trump world anxiety grows over a rising Elizabeth Warren. The next article below that, Mike Pence under fire for staying at Trump's hotel in Ireland. So it's all, I mean, again, where are those stories on Breitbart? They're not there. Where's the story about the illegal aliens killing a man in Baltimore? It's not on MSNBC. So these echo chambers are killing us, man. They're just killing us because we're getting a warped sense of what's important and what is news. Most people do see clear distinctions in liberal versus news organizations. Conservatives argue that the liberal organizations are all powerful. They call them the mainstream media. Actually, they like to call them the lamestream media. But the right likes to say that the left has control, really, of the media, and it's places like Fox News that are kind of these little insurgents that are the only ones providing the truth. In actuality, if you click on the next link, which is number 11, the real mainstream cable news network is, click on that. It's Fox News. And Fox and Friends is the number one cable morning show on cable TV. In fact, Trump has what they have executive time for Donald Trump in the morning. That's what's labeled on his agenda, where essentially he watches cable news in the morning, especially Fox and Friends. And a number of his tweets that he'll do sometimes are directly in response to some news coverage that Fox and Friends does. Now, Fox News is the number one news network, but why is it the number one news network? Well, one reason is, if you go back to that ideological placement chart, look at the number of news organizations that cater to the left versus the number that cater to the right. And so when you have that dilution to the left, and you only have a few main news organizations on the right, then that's why Fox has such a huge share of the cable news, is because there's so few organizations on the right. Again, chapter 2, page 31 discusses why people distrust the media, and one is this clear objective to slant the news to a certain point of view. But Trump is no different than you or I. All of us are more likely to go where our opinion is validated and where we aren't going to change our minds. This idea is called confirmation bias, probably a term you've heard before. Click on number 12. Now, for those of you who are sitting in class and say, "Oh, I think readers are flaming liberal," and so of course he's going to make us read this Washington Post story that's titled "Why Facts Don't Matter to Trump Supporters." Well, you can replace Trump supporters with Hillary supporters, Barack Obama supporters, Joe Biden supporters. Doesn't matter. Confirmation bias goes through all of us. It's us. We're biased and we're looking for confirmation of our biases. Makes us feel good. Some of us do like to go to other sites just because we like to feel outraged. That makes us feel good too. But I really want you to read this story about confirmation bias and why this is such a big deal for all of us when it comes to our news sources. So pause me and then read through that. I want to take a minute to look at a couple different personalities in the news. One of them, unfortunately, is gone, and that's Jon Stewart. Not dead gone. He just stopped doing his show, The Daily Show. I don't know if you ever watched him when he was on, as I know he's been gone for a number of years now, maybe 4 years. But he is just, oh my gosh, just so funny. Now he's on Comedy Central. He is definitely a liberal, but he poked fun at just about everybody. Anybody who was hypocritical or who said something stupid or did something stupid, he'd rip on you. But he largely went against the right. He would go against Bill O'Reilly and Fox News all the time. And then Fox News would say something about him, and then he'd play that clip and say something about them, back and forth and back and forth. He had a number of years ago a clip that I have here, a link about Sarah Palin. Now, Sarah Palin was picked to be the vice presidential candidate for John McCain back in 2008 when it was John McCain versus Barack Obama. This is the first year that Barack Obama was elected. McCain picked Sarah Palin, who was then governor of Alaska, and nobody knew who she was. Nobody. But here is Sarah McCain taking over, perhaps as vice president. She was a huge darling to the right for her kind of folksy talk about politics. And in this clip, Jon Stewart shows Sarah Palin coming to New York City. This was after the election, so Palin and McCain had lost, but Palin still was on this wave of popularity. She goes into New York City and she meets up with guess who? But way before he was president, Donald Trump. I forget what year this was, maybe 2012, it might say that. 2011. She stops in New York. This is 5 years before Trump is elected president. Please watch this. I know I'm giving you a lot to do, but it's so funny. Stewart's from New Jersey, and he is a big New Jersey, New York guy, and he's gonna totally rip on Donald Trump. And even if you're a Trump fan, this is pretty funny stuff. So pause me and watch that if you would. The second clip is Jon Stewart on Chicago versus New York pizza. I'm not going to make you watch this, but I'm telling you, it is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Back when this clip went, this is when the new World Trade Center building was built in New York City, and there was a battle between which building was higher, the Trade Center in New York City or the Willis Tower in Chicago. And so Jon Stewart uses that as a way to get into an argument about New York versus Chicago pizza. All of you students from Chicago out there, which feels like it's 90% of my students are from Chicago, you might hate what Stewart says about Chicago pizza, and it's profane, but it's really, really funny. If you don't want to watch the whole thing, at least start it maybe at the 3:40 mark is when he starts to go off on New York versus Chicago pizza. I find it entertaining. But I do want you to look at just the way he presents when you do watch these. How does Jon Stewart present his news? And it does cater more to the left. And what age group do you think probably watches Jon Stewart? The next one is Laura Ingraham, who is a big personality right now on Fox News. So if you'll do me a favor and click on hers, you don't need to watch her whole thing. Maybe just watch the first minute and look at the again. Remember that big phrase: it's not just what you say that matters, but how you say it. Look at how she presents her news. Which one do you like better? Even if you are more conservative than liberal, who do you like better in the way that news is presented? So go ahead and watch her just for a minute. Okay. Um, I'm guessing that you come to the conclusion that I do, that people like Jon Stewart or Trevor Noah or John Oliver um, are people that more young, more liberal people are going to gravitate to. Of course, they are liberal, so that helps. But just the way they present their news caters more toward at least young people than someone like Laura Ingraham or a Sean Hannity, even or a Rachel Maddow. Okay, I'm almost finished. This vitriol, though, this back and forth, and it's just I'm going to say bad things about you, and you're going to say bad things about me. And these other issues on page 31 on why people distrust and dislike the media has damaged journalism. It's not good. You might find it is entertaining. There's no question. But it's not good for journalism or journalists. Um, and like anything else, a bad police officer, a bad teacher, a bad doctor damages the whole brand. One journalist takes issue with this, and this is the last link on the list, um, where he writes an editorial in the Washington Post saying to please stop calling us the media, that there's no such thing as the media, that the phrase itself is just a too easy way to denigrate all of journalism. Um, I really, really, really hope you read this editorial and his argument that you should stop using the phrase the media because, as he puts it, it's lazy and unfair. If you click on that link, you may not be able to get it if you don't have a subscription to the Washington Post. If that's the case, I have the hard copy of the article in files in Canvas, so please read that. All right, that's all I got for the video. Thanks for hanging in there with me. That takes care of all lectures of chapters 1 through 3. And so go ahead, if you haven't already started on that quiz, please complete that for class. Thanks a lot. Take care.